Hey guys, welcome to my BMW F90 M5 competition review. Some of you might remember that I had the regular M5 at the end of last summer and I did about 1,000 miles in that car. I've had this car for almost a week now and I've done a similar amount of distance, so it's fair to say I guess I can compare both cars reasonably well. The spec on this particular M5 competition is stunning, and in fact if you want to see the full spec, watch my first drive video. I'll put a link in the description below because I go through the entire spec sheet of this car. This one retails at roughly £110,000 on the road. What I want to find out is what are the differences between the regular M5 and the M5 competition. The next thing to do is get out this freezing cold weather, jump inside and start the review. I think I'm going to put on my steering wheel heater, my seat heating, my massage seats. Then we are now inside the M5 competition. What a car. As I say, I've already had this car just under a week and I've done lots of driving in it. In fact, I found it very hard to put the keys down. Even late at night I've been out driving this car. I've really been enjoying it. There was a lot of confusion over this car, including for myself when it was initially launched, partly because it was launched just after they launched the standard regular M5, which at the time I thought was a bit cheeky from BMW and a bit of a silly sort of marketing exercise. I know a number of people that were quite pissed off, people that had M5 orders that had cancelled them, and in fact even people that stepped away from the BMW brand after BMW went ahead and released the competition only, it seemed like, months after releasing the standard M5, because these customers had their M5s in order for months and then suddenly there's a flagship model that trumps their car as they're going to pick their car up in the showroom. Truth be told, they are two totally different cars. They really are. So let's just talk about how they're different on paper. The competition sits 7mm lower. The suspension is 10% stiffer. If anything, it feels more than that. This has completely new anti-roll bars at the back, and the front ones are on different mounts. Talking of mounts, the engine mounts are a hell of a lot stiffer in this competition over the regular, if you can call it regular, M5. The front wheels have noticeable negative camber on them. When you add all these small changes, it completely transforms this car. I mean, it's a completely different animal. And that's why I think people have got the wrong idea when, you know, they look at the price and they think, oh well, it's only £6,500 more than a normal M5, but they're two different cars. They should almost have completely different badging, because to me the normal M5 is one of the best, if not the best GT car. Cross-continent cruiser, London to Monaco, in, you know, absolute comfort for 4 passengers and their luggage. I don't think there's really anything better. And the best thing about the M5 when I had it was how good the ride could be. It was very capable at everything, but its ride was so comfortable over its opposition, over the RS6 and over the E63 and the E63S. It was such a pliant ride. Jumping into this, instantly, even when you're in comfort, the ride is, they say 10% stiffer spring rate, but it feels completely different to me. It feels miles stiffer. And the M5 Competition is not a long distance cruising GT car. It's not the ultimate GT car. To me, this is a 4-seater, or 5 if you want to squeeze someone else in the back, supercar. That's what it is. It's a luxury supercar with a big boot. End of story. It's a different car to the M5, and I can't stress that enough. There's a different styling pack on the M5 Competition. There's lots of sort of black bits on the outside and black details here, there and everywhere. Also these beautiful forged 20-inch alloys, which are lighter than the regular 20-inch ones that are on the M5, and they look lighter, they look lovely. In fact, I wish I could have a pair of them in 19 on my M2 Competition. The roads are slippery today. But yeah, there's some subtle tweaks. Obviously you've got the M5 Competition badge on the back, which is a bit of a giveaway. But otherwise it's reasonably subtle, and you know, the rest of the cabin is pretty much standard M5 affair. These seats being one of them, the best seats I think on the planet. So adjustable, so supportive, just fantastic. They're amazing, and they fit my giant frame, which is always a bit of a challenge. I absolutely love them. They just hold me in the car, and they need to hold me in this car because it just does incredible things, really. Oh, it's so good. Oh, and I know if you've watched my initial first drive review, I tell you how fast this car is, about 57 times, but that's because it is so fast. Let's talk a bit more about its handling and its delicacy. Yes, it's 2 tons. I know you're probably laughing, going, delicacy, what? That's who are you trying to kid? And if someone told me that before, especially done me out the M5, where I think the M5 is very, very good. It does everything very, very well. It's incredible, that car. That its breadth of ability is unbelievable. And if anything, the standard M5 has got more of a breadth of ability than this car. But when you really start pushing on, it does feel 2 tons, and it's not pinpoint, it really isn't. Whereas this car, just those little changes, you know, the lowering, the stiffer spring rate, the camber, I think, especially on the front wheels. Okay, it does tramline a little bit more than, say, the normal M5 or a normal 5 Series does, but wow, it tracks so well, and it's just, steering inputs are amazing. You're just tickling it. It's very, very slippery outside today, I have to say. It is 1 degrees and the roads are damp, and unfortunately this car has got the Pirelli P0s on it. Now the P0s, they're not a bad tyre. In fact, they're very good in dry, warm weather. But mixed conditions, some of the M5s and the M5 Competitions come with the brilliant Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, which absolutely thrive in conditions like this. Okay, they are predominantly a summer tyre, but in damp, slippery conditions, the 4S's are amazing. Whereas as fun as these P0s are, they've almost caught me out a couple of times. You think this is invincible, this car with its X-Drive system, but it's only as invincible as the rubber that it's attached to. And the P0s in this sort of weather are not brilliant, you know, they're mediocre. Talking of drivetrain and you know what settings you have available in this car, like the normal M5, you have a number of different settings. So you've got, when you start the car up, you're in 4-wheel drive, which is a fairly equal bias system. Then you've got 4-wheel drive sport, so that actually sends about 70 or 80% of the power to the rear wheels, still leaving some at the front, so it gives it a very rear wheel driven feel. But when you want to come out of a slide or disappear out of a corner, you literally turn into the skid and it just fires you out. It's a brilliant setting, and it's my favorite setting, the four-wheel drive sport. In the four-wheel drive sport, you can turn all the traction control off, which I also do on a lot of the days I've had this car, because you just have none of the nannies overriding it, and it's very controllable even in that. And then you have the rear wheel drive, or the two-wheel drive, and that basically reverts this car back to a bit like what the F10 M5 was like. So you've got 616 brake horsepower through the rear wheels. On a day like today, especially after spending a week in this car, I think it would be very dangerous for me to turn everything off, because I just wouldn't be able to adapt to having absolutely no traction like I do now. It just goes, put your foot down and we're off. And it's so fast. It's so fast. You know that already, because I've already said it's so fast 57 times in my last video, but it is so fast. Let's have a quick glance over the figures of this car. We've got the familiar 4.4 litre twin turbo V8 underneath the bonnet. Produces 616 bhp in this car and about 550 pound-feet of torque, literally across the whole rev range. I think it's 1800 RPM up to 5800 RPM, so you've always got that torque. I'm in 6th gear now at 2000 revs. I put my foot down and it pulls like an absolute train. Top speed on this is limited to 155 miles an hour, I believe, but obviously you can have that lifted, and I'm in no doubt that this car is a 205 mile an hour car. 0 to 60 quoted at 3.3 seconds. I would say it feels quicker than that, and I know magazines have timed it at 3 seconds dead. It is absolutely ludicrous. It would do 3 seconds in weather like this and on days like this. It's just got such a clever system that fires you down the road from a standstill. It's amazing. So now I'm not so confused about where this car fits in the BMW range at £6,500 more than a standard M5. I think it's almost a standalone car. It's a different car. It's not just an M5 with some badges on it and a bit of extra power. It's a different car. As I said earlier, it's a very, very different car. It doesn't do the comfort, cruisy, nice ride thing that the standard M5 does, and it doesn't even come close to that. You know, these seats are the only things that are really similar about the ride quality. But on the flip side, what it does is it just turns into an absolute animal on the road. It's so good, it's so precise. I took the previous M5 out on track, and it just felt, to me, it felt big and understeering, and just, it's not a track car. You don't take M5s on track, really, do you? I know they're M cars, but this, I would be excited about taking this out on track. I really would. It's it's that good that I would actually want to take this car out on track. Other BMW models that I guess it has to compete with are cars like the M850i that I recently took or drove out in Spain. And that car was brilliant, but to me, I found it was a little bit of a confusing car because it was massive. It was 2 tons, so the same weight as this. It was fast in a straight line, but it wasn't particularly dynamic through the corners. You could feel the mass, and it just didn't feel, you could feel everything controlling the mass, but it didn't feel pinpoint. And also what I found confusing about the M850i is it's really only a 2-seater, although there are 4 seats in there. You can't use the rears. So to me, the one we tried, I think, was about £110,000, so exactly the same list price as this car here with all these options. To me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I know they're going to appeal to different people. You know, you're going to buy an 8 Series because of its looks, and it's it's a 2-door coupe. and you're going to buy an M5 for probably the totally opposite reasons. But if you are thinking about, or if you're looking at both options, this car is miles better in my opinion. It doesn't quite have the tech that the new 8 Series has, but it has pretty much all of it anyway. To me, it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place to be, and it's faster, more accurate. It would destroy an M850i pretty much anywhere. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. This, to me, is the ultimate BMW on sale today. It really is. As with all M cars, you have your M buttons here, so your 2 presets. In this car, they're very red and very prominent. I have my M1 set steering in comfort because, like with most M cars, I find anything higher than comfort, it just gets too heavy. I have my suspension in comfort as well, especially in the M5 Competition, because it's busy enough in comfort, and Sport and Sport Plus are just too much for the UK, especially on roads like this. And I have the throttle mapping in sports because I just think it's a very good sort of middle ground setting. We have 4-wheel drive traction, so we've got plenty of traction. There's a tiny hint of turbo lag as well, so you can kind of afford to have it in sports. It just picks up the turbos, it seems, a little bit better than when it's in comfort. I have the chassis set up in 4-wheel drive sport, but with everything turned off. Again, I wouldn't normally do that in a rear-wheel drive car, especially in the middle of winter in the UK, but this car has so much traction that you can get away with running 4-wheel drive sport. Begin to tell you how little grip there is outside. It really is so greasy, but this car is just, oh, it's brilliant. It's so good. I say that a lot about cars, I know, but it's just so good. It's fantastic. I'm really going to miss this car. I really am. I've really started to gel with it, and if I won the lottery tomorrow, I don't play it by the way, so the chance of that happening are pretty slim, but I would love one of these alongside my M2 Competition. And if I was a family man, a wealthy family man, boy would I have one of these over anything else. I mean, people go out and buy a fairly average Range Rover these days for £100,000. You could have one of these. Oh, it makes me feel a little bit sick. It's not too bad on the efficiency run, it really isn't, because the 8th gear is very long and it deals with long journeys in that sense very well. You know, it's only doing sort of 1700 RPM at national speed limit, so I actually do mid-30s on a long relaxed drive. But obviously when you're booting it a bit more like I am today, you'll be lucky to see higher than sort of teens, maybe 15, 16. Again, I think for what is effectively a 4 or 5 seater supercar, that's not too bad at all. Just wanted to say a massive thanks to my buddy Patrick, Becoming Patrick on Instagram, for helping me with all the amazing filming shots we did today. You'll probably notice, a bit like the RS4 long-term video I did, everything's a bit sort of higher level, and that's because he's a very talented kid, and obviously brings along some amazing camera gear. So thanks Patrick, always appreciate it, mate. big thanks to BMW obviously as well. Lauren, make sure to follow Lauren on Instagram. And yeah, I'm very privileged and lucky to have been given this car for a week. I've really enjoyed my time with it, and I'm really upset that I have to give it back tomorrow. But I get to enjoy my M2 Competition, which has sort of been put on the side since I've had this car, which must take a serious car. You know, my M2 Competition is only 5-6 weeks old. I can't wait to drive it again, but for me to just park that up for a week has meant that I've clearly had a lot of fun with this car, and this car is very special. It really is. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave any comments and questions below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys at the next one.